Hey guys, sorry I accidentally bumped the stop button. So this is gonna be a two-part video. So anyway, I was talking about the IV, and they were gonna pump me up with a liter of fluid. So she decided to try my hand first, and I don't know if you can see it, probably not very well, but this whole part of my hand is purple, and that's because I was apparently so dehydrated she couldn't get into my veins properly. Um, and she exploded my vein. Like, it collapsed and just. So there's just a huge ass bruise on my hand now. So then she tried to put it in my arm, and you can definitely see that one. That didn't work either. And finally, she got it in this hand, which doesn't actually have a bruise, surprisingly. So they gave me a liter of fluid via an IV, and then checked me again after that was done, and I had to pee like a fucking racehorse. They let me go to the bathroom. They checked me again, said that there was no further there was no further dilation at that point, but they wanted to keep me for a little bit longer and keep me monitored because I was having contractions still. And then I had a really bad one, and it's probably because of the cervix check. And there was also an issue that, well, I found it to be an issue. They weren't concerned, but I had a little bit of bleeding after the first cervix check, which I was like, okay, that's probably what that's from. And I mentioned it to the nurse, and she's like, yeah, it's just because everything is so vascular down there that sometimes the checking of the cervix can cause a little bit of bleeding. It's not really anything to worry about unless it's like period type bleeding. Like if you're bleeding enough to like soak a pad, that's too much. And so it was just a little bit. And then they did it again. And I bled more. And I don't know for sure if I was supposed to hear this or not, but she took her hand out of my vagina, and there was blood all over her glove. And she turned, there's another nurse they were going to be switching after this. So she turned to the other nurse with all this blood on her hand, and she goes, I mean, see, the bloody show. Which, if you know anything about pregnancy and birth, there's what is called the bloody show. And normally, the way it works is you have a mucus plug, which is just this disgusting glob of snot, basically. I mean, that's what everybody explains it as, is that it just looks like snot. There's a big glob of mucus that is blocking off your cervix to prevent infection from getting into the baby. And that's its main purpose, is there to be a protective barrier. And when your cervix starts dilating and everything starts getting going, it opens up and your mucus plug falls out. And a lot of times, your mucus plug will be tinged with blood. That's the bloody show. And usually that is a sign that labor is imminent, or will be soon. Within the next couple weeks, you're probably going to have a baby. Now, it doesn't always necessarily mean that, and you can also lose your mucus plug without a bloody show. And sometimes you can lose your mucus plug and then have a bloody show later. And so it's a little it's a little helter-skelter. But yeah, so she said that, and I was just like, what the fuck? Am I about to have this fucking baby? So nothing else was said on that matter, and I was like too busy in my own brain freaking the fuck out to think to ask, am I about to have this fucking baby? Like, you said that's the bloody show. Am I about to have this baby, like, this week? And so that nurse left, and the other nurse took over. That other nurse was a bitch. I didn't like her. She had awful bedside manner. And so after the second cervix check, I had a really bad contraction, which is probably from the cervix check. Because doing anything up in there can irritate it or can encourage contractions. So that's probably why. And they had, at that point, I had rolled over and got a shot in my butt, my steroid shot. And when I rolled over, I started having a really sharp pain kind of in my right lower back going towards my hip. So kind of the whole section, lower back hip area, was in pain. But it was not going away. It was just always there. And then I was laying there in the bed, and my in-laws came to see me while I was in the hospital, all, fucking naked in a goddamn robe with my ass out. But I did have a blanket, so it wasn't like I was like hanging out for them to see. But I had rolled over and done that, had that pain, and I was laying there, and I was like, that's starting to hurt more. Holy shit, that's starting to hurt more. And then I started crying because it hurt so bad. And in hindsight, I don't think it really hurt that bad. I think it took me by surprise. And I was already trying not to cry at that point because I was like freaking out. And I didn't want to cry in front of my in-laws. And, but yeah. And then the nurse came back in. They went and got her because I was like, she wasn't answering the fucking call button. So my mother-in-law ran out and went to go get her. And she came in. She's like, what's wrong? Like, it fucking hurts. What do you mean, what's wrong? And she went and looked at the monitor and everything. She came back. She's like, okay, so you just had a contraction. And it was really on it, like, you've been having them, but they were like 30-second contractions, and that one was more like a minute. So that's probably why it hurt so bad, just because it lasted longer. Bitch, fuck you. It was not anything like any of the other contractions I had had. The other contractions were like uncomfortable and painful, but like, I can deal with this. This one was like somebody was stabbing me in the back with a big ass knife. And so that happened. And then they came in. That nurse never checked me. Thank God I didn't have her very long, and I'm really glad she didn't check me because I feel like she would have been really rough, and I really would have been like, I'm about to kick this bitch in the face. And then another nurse came in, and they switched again. So I had 3 nurses while I was in the hospital for 5 hours. And she said that my contractions were starting to slow down and space out. I was still having them, but they were not getting closer together. They were starting to ease up. So they were thinking maybe just because I was dehydrated and the cervix check is what was causing so many contractions. And she checked me one more time just to be safe, to make sure I hadn't dilated anymore after those couple of bad ones. Because I had like 2 or 3 that were just really, really a lot more intense than the others. And I was getting scared because at this point I literally had blood caked on my thighs, like in between my legs. There was just blood, dried blood all up in there. So it's like, I have just literally been laying here bleeding and not even realizing it. Which the bleeding has stopped. I haven't been bleeding at all today, and it had stopped by last night. By the time, I was home and all that good stuff, it stopped. So, just from the cervix check. And so I got checked 3 times in 5 hours at 30 weeks and 6 days. Dilated to a 1. And I've been having off and on, I don't want to say contractions because I don't know that they are. I don't know if maybe that I've just gone back to having like braxton-hicks, but I've been having something today. Still some back pain. It comes and goes, so I'm assuming it just has to do with whatever position he's in. Like maybe he keeps getting into position and like pinching a nerve or something, and that's what's causing the pain in my back and side. And while we were in the hospital last night, I had to go back to get my other shot. He was like jamming his foot into my ribs the entire time. And my husband thought it was hilarious because I was like, boy, I'm gonna beat your ass when you get out of here because you get your foot out of my rib cage. It does not feel good. And they did not check me again while I was there because they thought, they said that I was still having a little bit of activity, but nothing worth risking another check for. Basically, they didn't want to stir anything up further. So they were just going to kind of leave it. But if I started having more contractions, more painful contractions, or if they got closer together, to call back and come back in. And they would hook me up again and check and all that stuff. I haven't had any reason to go back yet. But I am really scared to go back to work tomorrow. Because they told me I was supposed to work yesterday. And they told me no. The nurse was like, yeah, you're not going to work, honey. Basically, they wanted me to take the day to make sure nothing was going to happen. So I called out yesterday, and they were like, oh my God, that's fine. It's totally okay. Don't have the baby. And then I was just off today. So I had 2 days to kind of calm down and not freak out, and to make sure that I wasn't about to like go into active labor. But I'm really nervous to go back tomorrow because I'm scared that me being at work and doing all of that stuff is what was making me contract. So I'm really nervous that I'm going to go to work tomorrow and end up having contractions again and end up back in the hospital. So I definitely need to express those concerns to my boss, and maybe just try and take it easy for a little while, do something. I don't even know, but so that's where we're at right now. Like I said, it's kind of been fine today. I haven't done a whole lot. I did clean up my bedroom a little bit, not that you can tell. I didn't do anything up top. It's all down on the floor that I cleaned up. Stuffing from toys that my dogs have ripped up and dog hair and all that good stuff. I cleaned up all that, so. And obviously I had enough energy to take a shower, but I just feel really crappy today, and I'm really hoping that I can go to work tomorrow and not end up back in the hospital. Because if the hospital that I am going to will not admit a pregnant woman for labor before 32 weeks, they would send me to the hospital up in Nashville instead. So if I go into actual legit labor before 32 weeks, I'll have to go deliver my baby in Nashville, which stresses me out because that's a lot further of a drive than the 5 minutes or whatever to my hospital. So I'm really hoping he stays put at least for another week so I can hit 32 weeks at minimum before I have him. And he's still moving around plenty. He's still very active. I'm not concerned about that. I think he's head down. I definitely feel him lower in my stomach. Like when I eat, literally when I push on my stomach, I feel him down low. And I think I can feel his head down there, pushing a little bit on my cervix. But I don't think he's dropped yet. I don't think he's getting into birth position. He's in the position, but he's not locked and loaded yet. So he's head down, but he's not in the birth canal. He's not ready to go. So basically what I'm super paranoid about and waiting and watching for is losing my mucus plug. See if I have a bloody show, or if I already have. I mean, if I lost my if she ripped my fucking mucus plug out when she was doing my cervix check, I feel like that's something she would have told me. But who knows? I don't. Whatever. And I'm waiting for my water to break, which I know might not happen, so it is what it is. I'm probably going to start sleeping with a towel underneath me, just to be on the safe side. So that's where we're at right now. Just a quick little update in between my videos so you know what's going on. So we may have this baby a little sooner than expected. So I'll keep y'all updated. I'll let you know if that happens. And like I said in my last video, I do want to try to do we're on the way to the hospital, my water just broke type video, but I make no promises just because things can be crazy and hectic, and you never know what's going to happen. So that's all for this video. I will do another video. What did I do? My last video was 30 weeks was my last video, right? 28 to 30 weeks, so I should do another video sometime next week once I hit 32. If I hit 32, I guess is the word. So we'll do another video in about a week and get you updated on the rest of the stuff. I go to the doctor on the 8th, so I'll probably end up doing my video around there, just because I'll be able to throw my doctor's appointment into the mix as well, which I did after I went to labor and delivery. I did call and ask if she wanted to see me sooner, or if we were still okay to keep my my appointment on the 8th, and she said that was fine, that she didn't feel the need to hurry me along and have me come in any earlier, but just that if I did start having more contractions, or if I lost my mucus plug, or if my water broke, to go back to labor and delivery. So that is all for this video. I'll talk to you guys in a week. See you later.